And about to kick off right in the centre of that very hard cricket pitch area. Interesting to see that it was South Sydney who came out of the lucky dressing room, as many St George supporters used to call it, because that was the dressing room from which St George came out after win 11 premierships in a row. And normally the side that's more highly placed uses the ladies' dressing room, but they were pretty lucky. So there's the kick-off for the minor semi-final, and Canberra running it back to the quarter line through Kangaroo fullback Gary Belcher. Neville and Ellison up there doing the tackling. Steve Walters. And there's Backo, his first touch of the football, and good ground made by the prop forward. He's got it just outside that quarter line. Now Todd, there was an injury cloud surrounding Brent Todd. I'll need him this afternoon, and they take it up through Dean Lance.
Canberra forwards running it up strongly early, and as Brian Johnson mentioned, Souths have plenty of power, but I think that the Canberra pack could just about match them, and it'll be vital, because if they can, Canberra have plenty of speed out wide.
The first penalty of the afternoon going against South Sydney inside the 5, and Peter Jackson, the kick for touch. We saw at times last week just how effective this man's kicking game is, and I dare say he's going to have to play an important role in that area this afternoon as well, of course. Set up so much of the players he does so successfully for those little men, Brian.
Certainly. I think Ivan Henjak's, he's in there playing halfback already. O'Sullivan and Todd, they'll be waiting around to pick up any loose ball.
As Backo it is who takes the ball to within 37 metres of that South Sydney line. Steve Walters, away it comes, Henjak. Now that's Gilbert, his first touch this afternoon. Very deceptive. He always seems to be able to get himself into a bit of space. Gets on the outside of his man often. Steve Walters, blind side, that's Coyne. Back it comes to Todd, and Todd's held up just outside that South Sydney quarter line. Over on the eastern side of the ground, Henjak, the pass comes away. O'Sullivan did well to grab that. Thought about trying to go through the South Sydney defence. But Chisholm and also Fennick were equal to the task. Now that's Jackson. Jackson putting the kick over the top. And Maven's made a mistake. That's got to be a knock-on, as Lance came up and belted him as well to make sure that Maven knew that the defence was there, even if he hadn't have knocked it on. And look at this. Nothing really as far as pressure was concerned with Maven. Just a bad error. 11 metres out from his line. Canberra, they've got the ball and they're going to put pressure on from about 20 metres out. O'Sullivan. Belcher. The work move with Jackson down the centre. He's only 12 metres out from that South Sydney line. Steve Walters, dummy half. The ball's been raked back by Mario Fennick, and Souths come up in possession for the first time this afternoon. And that takes the pressure right off them. And that's a bad pass to Jason Moon. He's done pretty well at the first attempt, but he couldn't juggle it at the second one. And so the pressure's right back on Souths. Early errors, obviously, they seem to be the more nervous of the two teams in the opening moments. Maven makes a mistake, and now Moon.
It was courageous work from Mario Fennick to rake that ball back in the play. The ball, Canberra are already pounding the line, and it would have given away 6 more tackles, but he was successful. Unfortunately, they didn't capitalise.
And both those errors, unforced errors. Canberra's won the scrum. They're right on the attack again, and Belcher's up on the line. Belcher running wide. Back it comes to Jackson. Jackson runs round. Now it comes back. O'Sullivan. Corkery gets on the inside of Maven. Can't get his pass away. They're only 13 metres out, though, as Kevin Walters. Lance, down the centre comes Dean Lance. He's 9 metres away. Canberra putting all the pressure on the Rabbitohs early on. Walters away to Henjak. Across, O'Sullivan gets it away now to Gilbert, and Gilbert can't get through some good defence. It was good tackling that time from Cruikshank. Quickly it comes away. Todd away to Coyne. Coyne on his own. Coyne's almost in the clear. Good defence that time from Jason Moon. Right on the South Sydney line. As it comes back, Steve Walters. Walters has got into the clear. It's away now. Gilbert. Gilbert couldn't get that ball away on the outside. There was a huge gap there. Last tackle against the Raiders as Henjak puts the kick in. And O'Sullivan's got it and scored! First try to Canberra. A bit lucky, but they're leading 4-0. The Raiders open the account. Pretty simple stuff. Unlucky bounce perhaps for South Sydney, but that's what football's all about these days, with the grubber kick in behind the defence. Here it is, last tackle. O'Sullivan puts the kick in. You see the unlucky bounce. It came off Les Davidson's foot, or Chisholm's. Will have to wait for the head-on shot, and O'Sullivan said thank you. Warren.
There was absolutely nothing the South fellas could do about this. The ball rebounding back off Chisholm's foot. O'Sullivan was there to simply put it down. Last week it was Canberra having difficulty with kicks. He scored a couple of tries, but today the luck's going their way.
So there it is, Chris O'Sullivan, the man who's been there since the beginning, scoring the vital try in the minor semi, his 9th of the season, and the Raiders are in front 4-0 as Gary Belcher's about to come up to have the shot at the conversion goal. And there's South Sydney underneath the post. Wasn't much they could do about it, but good following through from O'Sullivan.
A couple of early errors put the pressure right on South Sydney.
So Ferner and Bennett there. Don on the left, Wayne in the centre. Looks to be Jay Hoffman there on the end of that with the headphones on too. Another man who's been with the Raiders since day one. Belcher, the chance to convert the O'Sullivan try. Moves in, it's successful, and so after just 5.5 minutes of play, Canberra are leading South Sydney by 6 points to 0. Well, there's not really much you can do about those situations, Brian. A little bit lucky, but you have to follow the kick through.
Certainly, there's been 3 unforced errors by South Sydney, which has been the problem. They're playing all the game in their territory, which is what they don't want to do, of course.
An indication of possession so far is that Souths have already made 22 tackles and Canberra have only made 1.
Well, those unforced errors, though, we thought that last week Canberra might have suffered just a little bit from stage fright, but they've opened up in a lot better mood today. This is the way they opened up when they beat South 3 weeks ago at Redfern Oval, scoring 5 tries to nothing.
Interesting to note, some of the Canberra players, particularly the little men, Henjack, O'Sullivan and Walters, are running around the back. They're not dropping out of play at all.
And that kick down towards the South Sydney quarter line. This is the man that Canberra really have to watch this afternoon. It was Phil Blake that I thought inspired South Sydney to greater heights last week. Their forwards did a great job, but it was Blake that gave them that extra little room to move in the back line. Bit of an altercation in the background there between Michael Blake and Chris O'Sullivan. Penalty against Canberra. Up inside the 5. On come the touch judges. I don't really think it's necessary for them to come on to report that. I thought Mick saw it, and there wasn't much in it anyway, was there? O'Sullivan might be spoken to about holding Michael Blake off the ball. Now there you'll see in the back play. In fact, Michael, I think, let one go at Chris O'Sullivan, but I'm certain it was for O'Sullivan initially holding him back by the jumper. And as you can see, the touch judges there seem to be singling O'Sullivan out for the talking to. Tit for tat. An unnecessary hold-up for the game. Now someone else is going to be called out. Ian Roberts is up there as well. This must have been something else that happened.
I suppose the referees and touch judges are right on the spot after last week, and they're not going to let anything go at all in the area of violent play. Not that I don't think there was anything particularly violent out there, but they're going to snuff anything out early in the game.
And there's the crowd frustrated. They want action. And really, there wasn't a great deal in that. It looked to me as if someone held the jumper and he just, Michael Blake just said, get out of the road.
It's just a little bit of chopping, I think.
South Sydney kicking for touch, and they've found it. So for the first time in the match, they're going to go on the attack. 32 metres out. Fennick misses out Boyle, Coleman, Ellison, Maven. Oh, Maven hit by the lock forward Dean Lance with a solid tackle. That's twice that Lance has let Maven know who's boss. And look at Davidson go down the centre. And in the background, a Canberra player has just been knocked flat. This will be Chisholm hauled out here. It'll be a penalty to Canberra. Coyne was knocked rotten by Chisholm. And this will be a penalty to Canberra. Let's have a look at this again. You'll see Coyne there now. He's number 9 as he comes through. And you mightn't see it. Just watch the left side of the screen as Davidson stands there one-handed to get the pass away, and Todd finished him off. And there you see the end of it as Chisholm came in and went bang, and Coyne was sat on his backside. And now Mick Stone's going to say something about it, and he's got to take stern action because we don't want what happened in last Saturday's game repeated. Warren.
We don't know if Coyne did anything to provoke the action, though. The penalty's gone to Canberra, but South were in possession. Davidson had just made a brilliant burst into the ruck, and Souths have really cost themselves now.
That's lack of discipline and lack of thinking. Let's have another look at this. There's Davidson. Now watch the left side of the picture. Now there's the right hand thrown, and there's the result of it. Canberra take it up through Backo, and look at Big Sam go. What a good run from Backo. He's causing them all sorts of headaches early on. Down on South's quarter line. Canberra on the attack. It's O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan on his own. He got into that gap, but it closed pretty quickly. Steve Walters. Jackson. Jackson puts the grabber kick through. Maven's touched it. It's gone loose. Oh, this could be another Canberra try. It is. Super try. Belcher's scored. It's 10-0. They've got themselves into all sorts of trouble, Souths. Someone forgot to tell them they should put resin on their fingers and not butter. Schoolboy stuff, and Kangaroos make them look like schoolboys with this. Look at this. Beautiful kick from Jackson, and Belcher says thank you. They make an absolute meal of this. Perhaps when you continually swap your side around, that's what happens. Players out of position, and Gary Belcher scores the try.
That little kick through from Jackson bounced awkwardly. Cruikshank was at fullback, not Phil Blake. It goes in between him and Jason Moon, or Maven rather. The awkward bounce there, the hand flicking it up into the in-goal area, and Belcher there to put it down for the 4-pointer. South's in all sorts of trouble.
So Gary Belcher, his 8th try of the year, a chance to convert his own try from the quarter line. He scored 11 last year, but I got the feeling, Brian, that neither Maven or Cruikshank called for that.
No, I think there was a lack of communication there, but once again it was East's mistake, South Sydney's mistake downfield, which enabled Canberra to kick out and get up in their territory.
It's almost immediately as a result of the Wayne Chisholm punch on Gary Coyne.
Exactly.
Gary Belcher, 1 from 1. Can he make it 2 out of 2? It's not going to go there, out over the dead ball line. And so, after 12 minutes of play, Canberra leading South Sydney 10-0. Well, the pressure's starting to tell. And this is just the way they opened up in those games against Canterbury, Souths and East, the games they had to win to make the 5. It's going to be interesting to see whether Souths can get back from here. The restart from Ellison.
That's
Belcher.
the second time already that Jackson's put the little kick in behind Maven on the wing. Wonder if they think he's a weakness in positional play.
Probably also the fact that Phil Blake is playing fullback too. He hasn't played there a lot.
It must put a lot of pressure on them too, Brian, the fact that Maven's played in the centre most of the year, and now he finds him on the wing, himself on the wing the last 2 weeks. Cruikshank's been at fullback, and now he's in the centre. Phil Blake's been out of the team for most of the year. He played centre last week, fullback this week. It must be bad for harmony anyway.
Well, here we are. We're seeing them kicking to Steve Maven's wing again.
And we already saw, of course, Jason Moon given a very bad pass early on, a mistake over on his side of the field. South Sydney at the moment, really behind the 8 ball. Michael Blake with it. And if he'd thrown that pass, it would have been to a man in an offside position. So he wisely kept it. South Sydney tried to run it out from their own quarter line. Gee, this Canberra mob are enthusiastic this afternoon. I'm not saying they weren't last week, but they've given South Sydney plenty to think about in the opening 20 minutes of this match. Not even a quarter of an hour gone, and Canberra leading 10 points to 0. Coleman, he puts the kick over the top. Now Belcher should get there first. It's not going to be an easy one. It's come off Ellison's legs. Davidson finishes the tackle off on Kinner, and he'll get up and play it on the quarter line. And that time the bounce of the ball again favoured Canberra. But Belcher committed himself, which made it hard for Ellison to get control. Corkery goes from dummy half. Canberra now running it back towards the halfway line. That's Todd. Last tackle against Canberra. It's Jackson who's going to kick. And there it is. It's a neat kick too. It bounces off the legs of Maven. O'Sullivan's got it away to Coyne. Coyne's got support on the inside. Henjack picked that up brilliantly. And Henjack's in for number 3. Canberra are leading mistake from Maven, and O'Sullivan said thank you. Coyne backed him up, and what a superb half-volley pick-up by Ivan Henjak, and that might be bye-bye Rabbitohs. The Raiders have got this game pretty well parcelled up at 14-0. You'd have to be the most optimistic South Sydney supporter to think they can get out of jail from here. And again, it came from Jackson's boot. 3 tries from kicks. Look at this. The mistake from Maven. He tried to trap it with the boot. Beautiful handling skills from O'Sullivan. And watch this pick up from Henjak. How did he pick that up? We'll never know, but it's enough for a 4-pointer, and Belcher might make it 6.
3 tries to South, and all 3 of them coming from kicks. Jackson driving it downfield, just looking for touch. It was an awkward one for Maven. He took it on the legs, taking the odds to it. The chasers coming through quickly. That was the secret. The chasers were there. Coyne pulls the 2 cover defenders in. Beautiful hands from Henjak to pull it up, and he had the pace to make it to the line.
So Ivan Henjak, his 7th try for the season, 28 points in all. And he's played inspired football since having to come in and fill in the centres and at halfback since that horrific injury to Mal Meninga. And really you wonder whether Mal could have picked that ball up. Higgins has gone to the sideline, but it might be all too late. They're down 14-0. Belcher to try and make it 16-0. It's there! 2 more points to Canberra. And so here we are with 24.5 minutes left in the first half, and the Raiders are leading South 16 points to 0.
Dramatic move from George Piggins. Steve Maven is off, and Mark Ross is on the wing.
Interesting to note, Steve Maven's dropped 3 balls so far.
Well, he's dropped 3 balls. 2 of them, of course, finished up seeing tries scored by Canberra. The restart there from Ellison. And this time Kinner, who's only touched the ball once, runs it back to the quarter line. So he's put pressure on South Sydney 3 times. Well, they've only got themselves to blame. And really, I don't think I'd be betting on South Sydney getting out of jail from here. I'll tell you what, if they do, Brian, we're in for a marvellous 60 minutes of football.
They certainly are. It's a big effort. It'll be a big effort by South Sydney to come back into this game. Particularly seeing that Canberra are playing with a lot of enthusiasm. As you can see now, good chase going.
And Ross gathers the ball in 30 metres out from South Sydney's line. They're going to need the wizardry of Phil Blake, I think, to pull this out. They've got some great players out there, South Sydney, but it's going to be Blake and perhaps some inspired running from Davidson that can get them back into it. But they've hardly had possession, and when they have, they've made mistakes, which of course has put the pressure back on them. Lovely run from Roberts, good skills. Pass away to Coleman, and now Coleman and O'Sullivan getting into it, the 2 bantamweights. It really was 2 of the real little men. The penalty going to South Sydney. Wasn't that lovely skills though from Ian Roberts?
He's a very big man and hard to contain.
I really believe that it won't be too long before we see him in a state of origin Guernsey for New South Wales. Look at that, it was just after he'd managed to get through that wall of Canberra defence. And good football. South with the ball. Down to the quarter line, Canberra's end of the field. You'll see that Gilbert just pulled Kevin Walters off the South Sydney player, not wanting to give the penalty away. They're even thinking about their football. Quick play the ball. They know that it's panic stations time as far as they're concerned, the Rabbitohs. Great hard-hitting defence there on Jason Moon. Neville, Coleman. The pass goes to Roberts. Roberts, lovely one-handed pass back to Coleman. Coleman, his dummy went to Fennick, and he's held up 13 metres out. Roberts is a dummy half. Ellison can't get his pass away. That's good Canberra defence. Last tackle against South Sydney. I wonder whether they'll try the bomb. This will be a penalty. And he's got one for his troubles, Henjak too, from Fennick, and then wanted to go on with it. Well, the touch judge would have seen that. Well, you'll see this again. Henjak sitting out. When's the ball played? Henjak, thinking the ball was played, came round. According to Stoney, was offside. You see Fennick gave him one to go on with, and then Henjak went on with it. Well, Georgie Piggins, looks like Dr. Nathan Gibbs there next to him, I think. But Georgie Piggins will be very worried at the moment. It'll take a performance something like the great side that he played with to get out of trouble here, I think.
Unfortunately, the game didn't start like South had liked. South like to get in and tackle hard early. Canberra hit it up for a couple and played most of the game so far in their territory.
So Ellison to have his first shot of the afternoon. He's a good kicker. And he certainly give them a little bit of confidence if he can get this. So there he is. He's only about 14 metres out. You could just about throw it over from there. There must be a bit of pressure on him too. But they seem disjointed, South, even in attack, because of all these positional changes that they've tried. They had the successful formula and then they've changed it again. Mark Ellison, his first kick of the afternoon, moves in. He's got it. 2 points to South Sydney. So 20 minutes gone in the match. South Sydney register their first points of the match. Canberra leading by 16 points to 2. So Mark Ellison going back in a position. Should inspire South Sydney to go on with it. As Canberra bring it back to the centre of the halfway for the restart.
It's easier said than done, but there's no reason for South to panic yet. There's still 60 minutes left in this game and they're only 14 points behind. They've just got to stick to their game plan, get themselves rolling and try and stop Canberra, of course, because that's been the main thing so far. Canberra playing so well. Their kicking tactics have been absolutely masterful. There's no doubt they came out to kick to this wing.
Well, the tactics have worked so far and they're leading 16-2 as Fennick has tackled 30-odd metres out from his own line. They're starting to really try and play that ball quickly, South. There, kick down over the quarter line. Belcher's back there. He's got Kinner in support. Kinner will grab it. And they've got 3 or 4 chasers down here, South Sydney. He's away from a couple of them. He's almost back to the quarter line. There's a good tackle. That was Davidson on Belcher. And there's the errors, and that really is reflected in the score. Canberra have made 3, South's 8. Canberra leading 16-2. This will be a penalty. Not allowing to get up and play it. To see that little second tackle, frustration that's born out of. You see Boyle's got him by the leg, and then the second little tackle, the referee's got no option but to penalise you there. See, hearing Warren talk reminded me of that article written by Roy Masters during the week where he rated Warren one of the best captains that he'd ever had the privilege to coach. Obviously, it was a pretty good farewell to Roy in the last couple of weeks.
It certainly was, especially going out on a winning note.
And we've got Coyne tackled just inside South's territory. Jackson runs it back inside South's territory. We're just talking about Roy Masters, of course. He coached Warren when he was captain of West, and of course he's been your coach for, what, 6 seasons?
6 seasons, yes. He's a very knowledgeable coach, and Warren said last night he's a very demanding man too.
So a lot of talking down there on the sideline as Canberra run it inside South's territory. Backo trying to get his arms free, and in the end he got it away to Coyne. Now that's Henjack. Henjack's got support in O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan's over the quarter line. Back on the inside, there's a chance here. Gilbert's in under the posts. Put away the glasses. It's all over. Canberra, they hit back immediately. Great football. It started with Backo's magnificent pass, strength, determination, and the ability to offload, and then it was just sheer the skill of backing up, which has put Canberra into the preliminary final. They lead 20 points to 2. Look at this. Now look at Backo. He should have never been allowed to get this ball away, but the determination of the man. Look at this, it took them forever to try and contain him. Coyne, and quickly the little men saw the gap. Henjack, O'Sullivan, the will o' the wisp, down to the quarter line, back on the inside. Belcher called for it. It went away from him, but they had safety in numbers, Canberra, and Ashley Gilbert's in under the posts.
As David said, magnificent work here from Sam Backo. Held by 3 players, he fought and he fought to get the arms free. Coyne with a very quick pass to get the ball away from that ruck area. Henjack slips it away to O'Sullivan, and O'Sullivan is so underrated. This bloke is playing brilliantly. The pass over the top, Belcher didn't touch it with his hand. That was an important point because it went straight out to Gilbert. It could have been knocked on by Belcher otherwise.
So there he is, Ashley Gilbert. 8 tries so far this season. He's a man who's played incredible football in the second round, and who'll ever forget that magnificent bust when he set up the first try against Canterbury. Belcher, the chance to add the extras, and he's got it. 2 more points to Canberra, and they're now leading South Sydney by 22 points to 2, and still 15 minutes remain in the first half.
Once again, it all came from a South Sydney mistake, giving away that penalty.
There's the restart. Kevin Walters will take this on his own line. And there's big Sam Bacco. He's having an incredible game to start with. You talk about that final win against Canterbury. The way Bacco's playing, he really does play like Craig Young did 10 years ago.
He certainly does. He makes the ball available all the time.
It could be time for Souths to panic now, I'm afraid.
Belcher over the halfway line. And again, that ball runs away, and a mistake by Blake, but he managed to secure possession as he runs it straight across field. But look at the chasing game of Canberra. They had 6 or 7 down there, and it's still going to take another ruck or so before all of the South Sydney players are back onside. Coleman, Moon, in off the wing to try and gain some territory. The pass comes away. Coleman's got it back to Cruikshank. Now Cruikshank running across field, trying to get on the outside of Jackson. He's running around like a headless chook. There's no one there to pass it to.
Interesting to note, it's been South Sydney's backs who have run the ball up for the first 3 tackles.
And there's Davidson. And can Davo offload it? Not this time. On the halfway line, 4th tackle. It's very hot out there too, which is going to take its toll on these big forwards. Lovely skills again from Roberts, but again, the runners just weren't quite there at the right time. Ellison, the kick, is coming down to Belcher. 12 metres out from his own line, takes it superbly. A good run from Belcher as he gets it back outside his quarter line. Yes, I don't think I'd like to be trying to get back now from 20 points behind and knowing that the strength is in the forwards and that it's very energy sapping out there.
Certainly is a very hot afternoon.
Todd. We haven't seen much of Todd yet. It's been all Bacco so far. Steve Walters, open side. That's Lance. Gone straight through, but in the end, Chisholm came at him again, round the bootlaces. Henjack in a dummy half. Belcher is going to kick. That's a good kick too. It's going to almost find touch. In the end, I think it will. It does. Great kick. Interesting to note, as we were talking about it last week, I might talk to Brian about it in just a second. As you notice, this ball, when it gets inside that quarter line area, it almost takes a right angle turn to cross the touchline. The Souths have won the scrum, but it seems obvious to me, but when you kick between quarter line and quarter line here at the cricket ground, the ball often runs along the touchline, but when it gets past the quarter lines, it seems to almost run downhill.
It seems as if the hill in the middle of the cricket pitch makes it through that.
And there's a good tackle, look at that. As Coleman was just picked up, ball and all by Jackson, bundled across the touchline. And look, this is just, you'd never see this happen unless you were really frustrated. Look at Coleman saying, come inside, come inside. And in the end, look at the reaction from the little man. Canberra, now that's Belcher again in space, and Belcher, he's got Corkery in support, he's over the quarter line, Corkery's gathered that in well, Corkery for the corner, good defence, the ball, in the end the touch judge said has crossed the touchline, and great football again. Corkery took the odds to it. Look at this Belcher run though, beautiful pass, Corkery gathered that in, he'd get a job on the Moscow Circus as a juggler with that, he just couldn't keep it alive. Now another South player being called out. But the way these backs are going, we might be in for a cricket school, Brian.
Gary Belcher, every opportunity is coming into the back line, making that extra man.
As you heard, Souths have won the scrum. The Effects microphone down on the sideline, picking up nearly every word being said by the Canberra Raiders. I'm glad they've obviously all been taught the skills of English grammar.
There's a lot of talk going on down there. There were some angry words a moment ago when Coleman went over the sideline. Souths really have a test of character here. They're up against it. They've really got to get together and try and get some spirit. Here goes Ross.
And a good run from Ross. He comes at Belcher. He's slipped the pass back. Lovely running there from Mario Fennick. Great backing up. He's lost the ball and it's going to be a knock on. but it was incredible to know that Ross made the break, and the first two men to support were the two most inspirational Rabbitohs of them all. Look at this, lovely pass from Ellison. Now Ross makes the run down the right flank. He comes to Belcher, and the two men who were supporting, Fennick and Coleman. They can't do it all on their own, though.
The trouble for Souths is they're simply losing the ball as soon as they get it. People like Davidson and then Ross are trying to make an impact on the game to turn it around, but Souths are going over the sideline, losing the ball on the early tackles. They can't do it because Canberra are playing so well.
Canberra aren't letting Souths play at the moment, and of course Souths are having to force the pass, Brian, to catch up, so to speak.
Yes, Canberra are playing a very good kicking game and capitalising on any mistakes that are made by South Sydney.
South so far, 5 handling errors as opposed to Canberra's none, so that speaks volumes. And now they've made another break here, and that's Kevin Walters. Back it comes to O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan comes to the quarter line. On his outside, Chris Kinner was screaming for the ball, but he couldn't turn to get the pass away. Jackson hoisted. It's high in the air. Cruikshank's getting back for it. They've all allowed it to bounce, and this will be a try to Backo. The big man's in. Next to the post. Nothing's going right for the Rabbitohs. The Raiders can smile. The trip from Canberra to Sydney today will be worth it. And I can tell you now, there'll be a lot of headaches in the Australian Capital Territory tomorrow. They'll be back tomorrow week. And look out, Bambi or Easts. Look at this. Jackson again. It came from the kick. They could have scored from the previous play. No one really called for it. Cruikshank almost thought someone else was going to get it. And in the end, Backo, like all good front rowers, chugging down the centre.
Kick goes up from Jackson, but this should not have been allowed to bounce. There were 3 Rabbitohs around it, and it hit the deck. Should never have been allowed to bounce. Good work by Backo. As David said, the positional changes may be causing some indecision among South. Usually the full-back, that would have been his ball.
So Sam Backo, 6 tries this year. A great one almost in an identical spot last week against Easts. This time, though, he had to run a bit, and to my mind, in the first half so far, he'd just about have to be the man of the match. 50 first-grade points, that is, also, since Sam Backo joined Canberra. A great effort, and what a way to bring up your half-century. South Sydney, I think they've been sunk without trace now. And look at the crowd, look at those boaters. And look at those other Canberra supporters. Gee, they'll be into that silly syrup down there tonight. Why wouldn't they be? Gary Belcher, 3 from 4. Can he make it 4 out of 5? Kenny Watt, it's there. And the Raiders are racing away with it. 28 points to 2, and we've still got 8 minutes remaining in the first half. Who would have thought it would have been like this? This really is almost identical to Redfern Oval, only this is going to be more of a massacre. The restart, they try the little chip over the top. Roberts comes through, it's been knocked by Belcher, but again, Gilbert's there to support his fullback, and Canberra has secured possession. The bounce of the ball's not going South Sydney's way, but that last try, Brian, it seemed to me as if Cruikshank started to go for it and then hesitated, almost as if someone else...
Once again, it looked like a lack of communication between the South Sydney players, letting the ball bounce, and as we know, Sam Backo scored. Also interesting to note, all the tries have been scored from kicks.
Coyne.
In fact, I think it's something like 7 out of the 13 tries scored so far in the semi-final series have come from kicks, and it's no surprise because they're good tactics.
Well, there's Belcher, I should say Backo. He's almost showing the speed of Belcher in this first half. He's been everywhere as Belcher it is who puts that kick in. A wobbly old one, but it's going to find touch. They can do no wrong at the moment, the Raiders. Look at this. South Sydney's Ellison tried to charge it down. Pinpoint accuracy, one bounce, and then across the touchline. Souths have won the scrum, but they've only had possession once, really, down inside the Raiders' quarter line. Comes across to Fennick. Roberts, there's not even much enthusiasm there at the moment with South Sydney. Jason Moon. Little Craig Coleman still yapping, realising that it's not lost yet. Roberts takes it down the centre. Ellison, Fennick. Now that's Neville. Neville linking back up on the blind side, trying to link up with Moon. He's almost pushed across the touchline. He's on the halfway line. Back across the open side. Coleman with it. Davidson, short pass from Boyle. Lovely ball to Blake. That was Michael Blake. Cruikshank's gone without it. Corkery hasn't got a clue where it is. And in the end, the scrum's going down for the knock-on. There's still not much purpose there, but that was some lovely skills from South Sydney. Well, there's Don Ferner. He still looks rather pensive, as does Wayne Bennett. I don't know why. I think they're entitled to smile at this stage. Scrum won by Canberra. Blindside quickly comes away. Belcher again making ground. And Belcher, he can get his pass away. No, it's gone loose. It's 6 to go, says the referee. And they're still mucking it up here, Canberra. It's going to be a penalty. Obviously, it had come off Henjack. But in fact, in fact, that's what the referee's ruling, that it had come off Henjack, and then Corkery was in an offside position when he picked it up. But that could have easily been another one. They're just not putting the man on the deck now, South Sydney. Very dispirited, very disheartened. And that could have easily been another try. The ball had come off Ross, back towards the quarter line, and had perhaps Corkery or Henjack tried to tow that through instead of trying to pick it up. I've got no doubts it would have been a try.
Belcher's cutting them to ribbons.
Wouldn't mind going in at half-time leading 28-2.
Certainly be a good feeling.
I might mention the fact that you did go in a couple of times this year, St George, with big leads at half-time. But nothing quite as substantial as a 26-point margin. There's a lovely flick pass back on the inside, and here's Phil Blake weaving some magic back to brother Michael, and Michael Blake is tackled. Only 18 metres out from that Canberra line. He gets up, plays it. Phil Blake on his own, uses the referee. Lovely grubber kick into open space. Phil Blake, I don't know whether he got there first. In the end, Corkery got the loose ball, and he's going to be hammered into the end goal area, and that's been by far and away the best passage of South Sydney play. Look at this again. This man is a wizard. Good football as he used the referee, and why shouldn't he? You're allowed to. And he almost got to that ball first, and Corkery cleaned it up. But they needed that sort of wizardry from Phil Blake 20 minutes ago, I feel. He's one of those incredible footballers that can turn a game, but of course Canberra have got 3 of those. O'Sullivan, Henjack, and to a lesser extent Kevin Walters. South Sydney, they'll be looking for a try before the break. I dare say the instructions at half-time from Piggins, well, if they can do it in the first half, we can do it in the second. Ian Roberts, the ball's gone away from Coleman. I thought it came off Gilbert's hands, and the referee agrees. He's going to put the scrum down for the knock-on. Definitely came off Ashley Gilbert's hand. Into that scrum it goes, picked up there by Ellison from the back. So Ellison, besides the fact of being actually selected at 5'8", packing into the scrums at lock. Phil Blake again links up with brother Michael Blake. Michael Blake for the line. He should score. Oh yes, I think he's there, but the referee's ruled it a double movement. Well, Michael's disagreeing with it. Let's have a look at it again. I thought perhaps his momentum carried him across the line here. Beautiful skills from the brothers. He's held. Was there a second movement? Well, gee, that's always the 50-50 one. There was definitely movement, but was it momentum? Very hard, Brian.
Very close decision. Very hard decision to make there.
Very difficult when you're in the situation, as you've probably no doubt been a couple of times. It's not easy yet. Warren.
It certainly was a difficult one, but really I think I would have given it the benefit of the doubt to Blake.
Backo with the ball. Lovely pass. Here's O'Sullivan almost in open space. Just gathered in by the State of Origin stars Boyle and Davidson. Another metre and the little man would have been away. As Jackson gets it. Jackson kicking straight downfield. Across towards that eastern side though now as the ball bounces away from Moon, and in the end it almost crosses that touch line. Moon back towards his quarter line. But Canberra up there in numbers. There's only 3 players back there for South. Now there's 5. And of course Canberra up there in a straight line.
Obviously Canberra's tactics today have been to kick the ball deep in South territory and keep them down there.
Coleman, Neville, away from Henjack. He's got some room on the outside but couldn't get it away to Cruikshank. 30 metres out from South's line.
Canberra's defence is starting to loosen up. They wouldn't want to relax.
And that was almost an intercept as Cruikshank's down inside Canberra's territory. Back it comes towards Phil Blake. Well, it's very hot down there, and maybe they're looking at the clock knowing that they can go in and have some staminate in 60 seconds' time. But they don't want to give away 6 points in the meantime. 6 to go as big Ian Roberts comes at Peter Jackson, and Jackson pulls him into the turf. 10 metres inside Canberra's territory. Blindside comes Neville. Neville stepping back on the inside. It comes away again. Chisholm, Fennick, quick hands, Boyle. They've got some room on the outside, but he slips over. They had an overlap, but he couldn't get it away. Cruikshank in a dummy half. Coleman, back down the centre comes Fennick. Stands, delivers, and into open space comes Cruikshank. Cruikshank going for the corner. Cruikshank, what a great run and what a great try! Brilliant solo try from David Cruikshank. You won't see many better than it. That is a super individual try. They all hung off him, just like last week's washing, and he kept going through the gaps and really did thumb his nose at some very poor defence. Look at this lovely pass from Fennick into the gap. Kinnett went on the outside looking for the winger. There was no one there, and as he half-heartedly came back on the inside, Cruikshank beat him. What lovely skills.
This might give South some heart for the second half. Great work from Mario Fennick, pulling the defence to him, slipping the pass away. Now look at the pace of Cruikshank. He runs away from Gary Belcher. He simply couldn't gather him in. Kinnett decided to go for the winger. Well, he had to go one way or the other. Cruikshank all the way, and really Canberra have loosened up badly in the last couple of minutes. This isn't really good football from them coming up to half-time. But great work from South.
So his third try of the year, David Cruikshank, former Australian schoolboys rugby union halfback, who came to South from eastern suburbs in '86, beginning of last year, played 12 games last year, and has spent most of this year at fullback, while Phil Blake was on the sidelines with that injury. But what a great run that was.
Certainly was. I think Canberra just relaxed a little bit before half-time. Full marks to South Sydney, though. They seem to have a fair bit of momentum, and then David Cruikshank just capitalised on it.
Fennick coming across to talk to Piggins, but he's going to have to listen to plenty in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Ellison moves in. It's a shocker. Just when they needed one, he couldn't be successful. And at half-time, the Canberra Raiders go in leading South Sydney by 28 points to 6. They've scored 5 tries to 1 in the first half, and Belcher's kicked 4 goals, while Ellison's kicked 1 for South Sydney. A marvellous first half from the Canberra Raiders, and only that belated South Sydney try, albeit one of the individual efforts of the year, has kept them from keeping their line totally intact during the first 40 minutes. At half-time, 28 points to 6 in favour of Canberra over South Sydney.
I think George Piggins would be at his team to cut their error rate down too. Not give away any silly penalties which are allowing Canberra to kick the touch and gain a lot of territory.
Well, as a coach, there's not much more you can say than that for Piggins, is there? I mean, he can't blast them or anything. They all know that they're behind the 8 ball. I suppose the only thing is to try and lift them and give them the confidence that might instill them with a chance to pick up these 4 converted tries they need to break or to get back into the game. And there's the restart for the second half. South Sydney with it all in front of them to do. Canberra leading by 28 points to 6. And they'll need some early points here, the Rabbitohs, if they're to have any hope whatsoever of staying alive in the 1987 Winfield Cup. Chisholm runs it up. We'll get a chance shortly to go down to the sidelines and speak to Warren Boland, who's, of course, been visiting the dressing rooms and checking up what was actually said at half-time. Just looking out at the two teams. There's no change in that South Sydney lineup, except that early one, of course, that was made when Ross came on in place of Steve Maben. And there doesn't appear to be any changes out there for Canberra, and why would there be? Neville into a bit of space up to the halfway line. He's going to play it just inside Canberra's territory. It's the last tackle. Fennick, blindside. That's Blake, Phil Blake. Phil Blake on his own. They better not hang off him. The flick pass back to Ross. Now it comes away from Boyle. The bouncing ball. Fennick's got it. Now, can Fennick keep the movement going? It's the last tackle, remember. Chisholm's got it. The referee's going to rule that pass forward, though. They have to keep it alive. It's the sort of football they have to play, of course, to stay alive. Let's go down to the sidelines, and here's Warren Boland.
We can see the change out there in the South Sydney lineup. Of course, with Roberts off, Andrews on, and Boyle will probably move up into the front row. Of course, South have got everything to do, so it's just up to them to throw the ball around. And that's what Canberra are expecting them to do, to throw the ball around at all costs, and that's why Canberra defence is really going to have to be on their game. And what the coaches at Canberra want them to do is to kill the time clock, use up time, hold possession, play for 5 tackles, and simply watch that 40 minutes tick away.
Fairly simple and straightforward stuff. When you don't have to score 4 converted tries, it's pretty easy to carry out too, I suppose, as long as you don't run out of puff. You can see Ian Roberts not out there, but that's a big blow to South Sydney. He has had, of course, that neck injury worry over the last few weeks. So Sullivan kicking for touch. And that's Phil Blake who's got the ball down on his own quarter line. And look at this, great run from Phil Blake. Blake over the halfway, Backo coming across. Backo's put him off balance. The pass has come back. That's Michael Blake. Michael Blake still going. The pass has gone loose. There's still a chance. Phil Blake for the corner. Great cover defence by the Canberra player coming across there in cover. Looked to be Corkery. In fact, it was Kinner, the other winger. What a great try-saving tackle as Blake was set to score. Oh, he did step out way back towards the halfway as we see this Kinner coming across in cover to drag him across the touchline, but it was all to no avail anyway. He'd stepped out about 15 metres inside Canberra's territory in the initial run before he linked up with his brother Michael. But that's the sort of stuff that Phil Blake can turn on so quickly. And they've got to watch that.
He's just one of those players you can't hold off him all game.
Warren Boland.
David, I wasn't sure if you already had mentioned it, but Dean Lance is in the sin bin for 5 minutes for an incident just before half-time.
I didn't see that. I saw him leave the field as Ellison was lining up for the kick, but I must admit I didn't realise that he'd actually been banished to the sin bin.
So Canberra 1 down in defence, and it gives South the extra couple of minutes to move this ball wide.
And Jason Moon with the ball just outside his own quarter line. That was an interesting one, Brian. I think we just thought that Dean Lance had walked off prematurely at half-time.
We didn't know what was going on.
Neville, Coleman, Davidson down the centre, and Davidson taken across the chest, says the referee. 10 metres inside South's territory. Coleman the long pass to Moon. Moon to the halfway. Kinner's there, and so too is Jackson. Just inside Canberra's territory. Andrews in a dummy half. Coleman trying to open up a bit of space to pop the pass up. Last tackle against the Rabbitohs. Ellison puts that kick up. It's a shocker going out towards the right wing. Ellison's got it back though, and the pass over the top of Michael Blake's head. Blake throws the dummy on his own, and in the end he's banged into touch. What a superb tackle that was too. As Dean Lance comes back onto the field. Have a look at this again. It was a good dummy from Michael Blake as Kevin Walters came racing across and just pushed him completely off balance, but with such a force that he went about 4 metres and across the touchline. Didn't make much difference. It was the last tackle anyway.
It was a good result having a scrum rather than just handing the ball straight over.
Now the blindside worked here by Canberra, and that's Belcher. Midway half and quarter line inside Canberra's territory. Well, we've got a huge audience in the bush listening this afternoon. There's a lot of people up in Gundawindi. Just like to wish Les Cleal all the best of luck tomorrow in the grand final. Gundawindi playing Waratahs. An incredible performance from Big Les if he can win another competition going through undefeated. He's done it with Scone, Sawtell, and twice with Tumbarumba, and a chance this year with Gundawindi.
I was talking to Mal Meninga during the half-time break, and he said he could be available to sit on the bench next week, subject to a specialist clearance. The other thing Mal pointed out was that in the first round against Parramatta, Canberra led 22-0 at half-time, and Parramatta came back to beat them 30 points to 22, and he doesn't want a repeat of that.
This is not a nice number for them, 22 Canberra, but it was a combination of Sterling and Lindner that did it that day for Parramatta. And even though Craig Coleman's an outstanding footballer, he's not quite yet in the Sterling mould. Neville back towards the quarter line. Andrews, quick hands, that's Davidson. So they're looking after Davidson, but that was a good pass to Cruikshank. But again, the defence just swarming all over over South Sydney, not giving them a chance to really create anything. It's been the individual spark, and now Neville's made a meal of it. He thought that was a knock-on. The referee, I was certain, was about to rule knock back and then blew his whistle. I was certain that the way the motioning from Mick Stone was in the background, that he was going to rule that a knock back. And then he's blown the whistle and ruled it a knock-on. So another handling error against South Sydney. So they've made 8 handling errors as opposed to Canberra's 1. Of course, Canberra last week made a heap of handling errors, which resulted in Eastern Suburbs tries. So they've really made up for those mistakes last week, and now they've got a chance to go on the attack again. The long wide pass, Kevin Walters. Oh, and he trips over. He links up eventually with Belcher. If he got the pass away first time to Belcher, there was a bit of space over towards Chris Kinner's wing. Kevin Walters on his own from dummy half, and he's got it on the quarter line. In fact, he's lost the ball. Souths have come up with it. Boyle running back towards the quarter line. Good defence. Henjack involved with Steve Walters. Just outside the quarter line, Ellison stops, drops the pirouette 10 metres out from the quarter line.
We have a call, please.
8 minutes gone in the second half. No change to that half-time score. Still Canberra leading by 28 points to 6. Ball's loose. Coleman's got it, and Jackson in turns got him. Davidson, good block-busting run, but no support. Blindside, Coleman. On the inside, the pass comes away, comes off a Canberra player. 6 to go, as Andrews will get up and play it. Fennick on his own. Davidson down the centre, into that cricket pitch. I think I'd like to be tackled there today. As Coyne gets up very slowly, and that was the man who was underneath that would have got the nice gravel rash. Fennick, quick hands to Chisholm. He can't keep the movement going. In fact, he has in the end. Andrews it is who's got it. 11 metres inside Canberra's territory. Fennick, Coleman, Neville. Out it comes now to Michael Blake, back to Cruikshank. And Cruikshank again into a bit of open space. He's got Neville in support. On the inside it comes to Neville. Neville's had a couple of grabs at it. It's gone loose, and Kinner cleans it up for Canberra and runs straight across field. Ellison's giving chase. Now Kinner, he's got the chance to get back to the quarter line. He's over the quarter line. Got it away to Jackson. Jackson coming up to the halfway. Jackson comes on the inside of Davidson. Back on the inside of Chisholm. Looks for support. Corkery was just on the wrong side of him. Good football, though, as they ran that out from their own line. And now it comes away towards Belcher. Quickly it comes away, O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan, quick hands to Backo. How did the big prop forward get there? Knock on, though. But great football from Canberra. Some inspired stuff from South Sydney, and then some magical stuff to bring it back.
Both sides are certainly throwing the ball about now. Canberra throw it anywhere. They seem to have people backing up.
And that was the big prop forward who was backing up the backs in the end there. Sam Backo.
Michael Blake has left the field. That hamstring looks to have gone again.
That's tragedy for Michael Blake. Just when he looked as if he was starting to create some openings for his wingers. Cruikshank's dangerous too. Coleman tries the little chip over the top. Gilbert's there. Coleman's knocked it on. The ball's gone loose. It's going to be a penalty. It was almost accidental, but there was enough intent there from Coleman on Kinner to make sure the penalty went Canberra's way. Here it is again. Just misses it. No, and when you have a look at that one, there's no doubt about it. I thought he almost ran into him and then just completed it. But he really was almost premeditated, wasn't it, Brian?
South Sydney don't look very happy at the moment.
Neil Baker's on the field.
Canberra finding touch, and they've got it 30 metres out from the South Sydney line as they work it through Gilbert. Kinner's done well to clean that up, but the referee's ruling it a forward pass. And that's one of the first times that we've seen Canberra muck something up. And as you could hear quite clearly in the effects microphone, first tackle, and obviously they're not happy with it. I think that's Les Morrissey coming on.
For Canberra is number 17, Les Morrissey.
Ground announcer Alan Gaskell and ABC News
the
reader
for Canberra is
telling
Sam
us the
Backo.
story that Sam Backo's off and Les Morrissey's on.
Sam Backo has been battling on well because he is suffering from a virus, apparently.
I tell you what, I think those Canberra people, I hope he has a virus every week the way he played in that first half.
That's for sure.
Brian.
Sam Backo's had a very big game. He stood and tackles, unloaded the ball very well, but he's always had support there.
That's the key to it, I suppose. It's not much use being an outstanding prop or playmaker in the forwards if you haven't got anyone to run off you. So Morrissey, that's the man who's playing the ball. On for Backo. Henjack, now it's Lance. Good ball to O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan streaking away from them. O'Sullivan trying to link up with Corkery. O'Sullivan back on the inside as Jackson. Jackson for the line. The pass back on the inside, intercepted by Boyle. And he in turn gets it away to Ross. But great running again from Canberra. Some magical football we've seen here this afternoon. And you've got to give South Sydney their due. Every time they get a chance, they're throwing it wide as well. They could have easily closed up the shop here, Canberra, when you think about it, and just played the kicking game in the second half, and there's a mistake. Knock on both ways, says the referee. Scrum to go down. And here it is again, the end of that marvellous move when O'Sullivan streaked away to give Jackson a chance. And it really, I think it was a pray and hope pass back on the inside. Henjack couldn't gather it, but Boyle did. Now Canberra with a chance from the scrum base. He's got it away, Henjack, and coming back, O'Sullivan will score under the posts. They tried to take Henjack high. Henjack maintained his balance, and O'Sullivan spied the opening on the inside and raced away, and it's 32-6. And at some stage this afternoon, Canberra will declare. Look at this. You could see that something was on because the defence was very thin here from South Sydney. And there it is. In fact, he was taken out of the play almost as they went high. But he managed to spin out of the tackle. They were waiting for him to throw the ball out towards Ginner's wing. And he said, thank you.
O'Sullivan hit in the tackle by Cruikshank. He spun around and all the cover defence went past him and left it wide open for him to go behind the posts.
The head-on shot will be interesting. It's quite incredible that cover defence all just let him go. And there's O'Sullivan, his 10th try, his second of the match. Belcher from right in front. Right in front, 11 metres out. Belcher moves in. It's not his best kick, but it's good enough for the 2 points. And so Canberra have raced away with 26 minutes remaining in the match, and they lead by 34 points to 6. Gilbert, he's knocked it on.
O'Sullivan has really been injecting himself into this match. We've seen Henjack be the dominant player in the back line in many of the recent games for the Raiders, but today O'Sullivan is playing brilliantly. Great pace in the middle of the field.
That's the thing about Canberra, isn't it, Brian? There's not just one you've got to watch. You've got Henjack and O'Sullivan, and Kevin Walters is pretty quick too. He can get into those holes.
And then you've got Gary Belcher injecting himself into the back line at every opportunity as well.
But you still need a linchpin, and that's why Peter Jackson's the perfect foil. Now here they go, South with Davidson, the battering ram. Good defence though from Canberra as they hurl him backwards. 13 metres out from Canberra's line. Neville taking it up as Fennick. The short pass comes away, and that's Ross. Fennick again. The pass comes from Ellison away to Boyle. Boyle's got it away to Neville. Now Neville decides to go on his own down the centre. And he's lost the ball. Knock on. Well, they just continually make mistakes. The referee, obviously a player's out there injured. He's okay now, Neville, as he was getting to his feet. Some other big grand finals on tomorrow. I know there's a big one down at Wagga, the big ground down there where the Temora Dragons are taking on the Wagga Kangaroos. And good luck to Neville Elwyn and the Temora Dragons tomorrow. It'll be great to see them win the comp. Haven't won one for 10 years. In fact, 1977, the last year Temora won. And out in Brian's territory tomorrow, Group 14, the grand final featuring Ningen and Gilgandra. As Henjack makes a break back towards the quarter line, still down Canberra's end of the field. That's Corkery. Hasn't been given many opportunities today.
No, he's been very well contained.
Steve Walters in a dummy half. Now that's Morrissey. You'll remember this ground too, because he was part of that Canberra side that was a little bit unluckily beaten in the grand final against St George in the 85 reserve grade grand final. Unlucky in the sense that the last pass that went to Brian Johnson, the blonde-haired fullback, was, I think in many people's view, a long way forward.
Might have been a little bit marginal.
That's Neville with it. The flick pass. Oh, good football from Jackson. See that? Who fell for the 3-card trick there? South Sydney run it back towards the quarter line. Do you wonder how well this Canberra side would have performed had Faye Ferguson and Meninga stayed fit for the season? And when you think of the replacements, who were basically Kevin Walters or Ivan Henjak, take your pick, Kinner and Corkery. Well, there's Jeff Fennick. He certainly is not as happy today as he was last week. Still, like most good boxers, he can take it on the chin.
Players have gone over the sidelines a surprising number of times today.
Belcher with the ball, back towards the halfway line. We've got just 23 minutes remaining in the minor semi-final. O'Sullivan puts that ball over the top and it's back gathered in magnificently by Neville. How he ever got that, I'll never know. Put him in the Australian cricket team as it comes away to Cruikshank. Cruikshank showing amazing speed again. He's away from Kinner and Blake can't handle the pass. Morrissey's back there. It has to be a penalty. Blake was interfered with as he tried to grab that. But what amazing speed from this man, Cruikshank. Kinner comes at him. There's the one-handed pass back to Phil Blake. And you'll notice that Blake, he was just grabbed by Kevin Walters just before he got it. South Sydney continue it on through Neville. And this man's a very neat stepper of the football. And there's a mistake. Knock on. How did he ever pluck that ball out of the air from that O'Sullivan chip, though? Reflexes like that, you could put him at first look for Australia, and I don't think he'd lose anything. The earlier games today, South beat Cronulla in the under-23s 18 points to 8. And in the reserve grade minor semi-final, Parramatta defeated Eastern Suburbs 16 points to 6. Penalty goes Canberra's way.
Unfortunately, these little mistakes are costing South dearly in this game.
It often happens when you're behind by big margins too, doesn't it, Brian? You've got to force the pass to try and catch up.
Probably a certain amount of frustration too. Nothing seems to be going South's way. The bounce of the ball today's favoured Canberra.
At half-time, George Piggins spent much of his time trying to boost his team, to raise their enthusiasm. They had their backs to the wall. He told them not to start arguing amongst themselves, that they were still in it and to fight on. But the mistakes are frustrating them.
As Canberra run the ball back to the halfway line.
Really, Canberra had a dream start to the second half, scoring that first try.
Line side, Dean Lance links up there with Corkery. Corkery wished he had. He was hitting that hard tackle over the top by Boyle. A few metres inside South's territory as Brent Todd takes it up. And you start to wonder about the stories that came out of Canberra during the week. The big stories were that Brent Todd was the one injured. Of course, Sam Backo's the one who's come off after being suffering from the effects of the virus all week. That has to be a penalty, surely. Canberra player in front of the previous Canberra player who played at the ball. And South Sydney to come up. Almost a forlorn hope now. 20 minutes left in the match. They're 28 points behind. They'd need 5 converted tries. So they'd have to score it more than a point a minute. I think that's touched Corkery's hand. And the touch judge says yes. And so a scrum will go down.
It's pretty much the way the afternoon's gone for South Sydney.
Another big grand final in the country tomorrow. Up at Uralla. The Uralla take on YCW. Let's hope that the Uralla Tigers can be successful. There's Baker now. Baker coming to the quarter line. They've got a chance here. Quickly it comes away. Blake should score. No! I think he's gone into the corner flag. We'll wait for the touch judge. The referee, I think, is going to award a try. He's got it down. Great try to Phil Blake. We'll have to have another look at that again. Of course, unlike the touch judge, we get a couple of chances to have a look. But it looked as if perhaps the corner flag had gone first, but obviously the touch judge is about 200 metres closer to it than us. Let's have a look at this. The pass came from Coleman. Now into the line is Baker. Now Baker gets to the quarter line. He's got 2 in support. And Blake says, I don't need the support. Kinner comes at him. Kinner grabs him. And it's Kinner, in fact, who takes the corner post. And I think Blake's got it.
Both teams have been able to make breaks from scrums today. Coleman with a run around picks up Baker, and Baker really took off here. I don't know where the Canberra centres were. Kinner came in, left his wing and left 2 players outside him, and Blake, that awesome speed he has, goes inside the corner post, does he? Difficult to tell in the shadows, but it probably was the Canberra winger taking the corner post out.
Yes, No risk. It was a fair try. Blake scoring his 5th try of the season, and now Ellison the chance to convert from the sidelines. Moves in. He struck it pretty well. It looks very good off the boot. It's a fabulous kick. 2 points to South Sydney, and Canberra now leading by 34 points to 12 with just 18.5 minutes remaining in the match. And what a great decision that was by the touch judge. An extremely difficult one to make. Admittedly, we're a long way away from it, but it did look as if the corner post was taken, but wasn't that a good decision, because it was definitely Kinner and not Blake.
Certainly was a magnificent pass by Craig Coleman.
The restart from Belcher, with Canberra leading 34-12. And so often we can criticise refs and touch judges because we have got the advantage and hindsight of the video replays. But gee, when considering they cop so much abuse, I think at times we've got to give them praise for a decision like that. The chip over the top has been gathered back by Cruikshank. Now Fennick. The line pass comes away. Ellison, they've got a chance again here, the Rabbitohs. Down over the halfway line, trying to link up out wide. The pass has come off Corkery's hands. Corkery's got a second grab at it. He's got it back with 6 to go, says the referee. And now they've made an absolute meal of it over there. The ball's gone into touch. The scrum will go down. A couple of metres out from that quarter line. Kevin Walters back on the field out there. Gone to the sidelines for some reason. As Davidson now gets the ball, away it comes. Pass comes to Neville. Running around Cruikshank. Cruikshank has had a blinder of a game, really, in attack. That pass has gone loose and Kevin Walters has grabbed it in for Canberra.
Once again, it was that last pass that went astray for South Sydney.
And they're just going to slow it down at the moment. As Todd takes it up.
Canberra are quite happy just to run through the game, go through the motions.
Coyne, one out at the moment from Canberra.
Canberra do need to take stock. They've been oozing confidence in this second half, but sometimes their concentration has been wavering. Good sides in semi-finals grind the opposition right out of the game.
And now Canberra swing it back the open side, and Henjak puts the grubber kick in. He was taken out of the play, but in the motion of kicking the football, said the referee. And so South Sydney come up with it. Midway half and quarter line, inside South's territory. Coleman. Baker's pass comes away again. That's Phil Blake, and Phil Blake's into a bit of space. But across there, Gilbert and Lance put him into the deck. Midway half and quarter line, and Davidson's gone without it. And Canberra come up with possession through Ashley Gilbert. They'll just take their time here. Lance will settle it down as he does from dummy half. The Canberra captain. Henjak, Brent Todd. He's got it away. That's a good pass, O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan's away from one. He's still going, O'Sullivan. The pass to Kevin Walters. And he can't, yes he can. He's got it away, and South Sydney have come up in possession, trying to force the pass. And they're the side, of course, that don't have to force the pass. Andrews is tackled on the quarter line. I think this effort's starting to tell, though, this second half effort of South Sydney trying to get back into the game. There's a lot of them walking. It's a very hot day. Jason Moon with the ball. 10 metres out from his quarter line. Over towards the Rawongle stand side of the field. Coleman, that long pass comes away. Now Neville into space. Neville down to the halfway line. Coming across Henjak. Ellison's got it back. The pass has gone astray again. They've got it back. The referee says it's a knockback and play on. South Sydney continue it on through Fennick. And he's tackled in tackle number 5, 35 metres out from Canberra's line. Coleman switching it back the blind side. Coleman on his own. Coleman puts the grubber kick in. Coming across is Belcher. And coming through quickly there is Ross. Belcher on his own line. And Belcher, in fact, has taken it back across the goal line. Good strength from Ross. Play will restart with the line dropout. And Belcher that time had the opportunity to give it to Corkery, but said, no, I'd rather take the safety first option. And when you're leading by 22 points, that's probably the right option. It would have been so easy for Belcher to have thrown a one-handed pass to Corkery, but he didn't know where the opposition was, and it could easily have gone loose and a try have resulted. There's the dropout. Taken back towards the halfway line. As Boyle gets it. And now there's another chance here as they sprint down the touchline, but Kevin Walters has intercepted that pass from Baker. And he's back towards the quarter line. And now a pass that comes away to Lance. Lance is down injured here. Obviously something happened. Now Boyle and Lance are entangled. And Lance is injured in the tackle. And obviously something has happened out there, because Boyle said to the referee he's badly hurt or something by the reaction from Boyle. Warren, did you hear anything down there?
No, I was just going to say Phil Carey's come on to replace Peter Jackson.
They're calling for the stretcher, and that's bad news for Canberra. But the way that Boyle reacted, and that's great sportsmanship, he could have quite easily just let play continue. And there he is helping Dean Lance off with the headgear. But Boyle obviously knew that Lance had been injured rather badly here. There it is, the accidental knee in the back. There was nothing untoward in the incident. But that's great sportsmanship from David Boyle, because he could have quite easily let the referee say, you know, continue on with someone else from Canberra playing the ball. As Peter Jackson leaves the field, applause from the bottom deck of the members' stand. Not very often you see that, but David Boyle to be applauded there.
During the break, a quick look at the tackle counts. David Boyle's on top for South, having made 20. Ian Roberts is second with 18, even though he's been off the field since half-time. And Mark Ellison, 15. While for Canberra, Gary Coyne's leading the way with 14. Kevin Walters, 13. And his brother Stephen with 12.
Unfortunately, there it looked as though Dean Lance was falling, and David Boyle's come in leaning, and I think his knees have hit him lower in the back.
Rowan Brennan coming to the sideline there for the Raiders. He's had a lot of first-grade experience. A couple of those other country grand finals that are on tomorrow. Group 1, Lismore Maris brothers are opposed to Kyogle. Group 3, Tari Olbar and Port Macquarie. Group 6, Picton play Mittagong. Down at Group 7, Mick Croner's Gerringong are opposed to Milton Ulladulla. Group 16, Bega play Merimbula Pambula. And it's preliminary final day up in Group 18, where Tweed Heads Seagulls are opposed to South Tweed Heads. Well, there's Dean Lance being carried from the field. He's obviously received a lower back injury. Let's hope that it's quite okay, though. And play restarts as Canberra run it back towards their own quarter line. And that Group 18 preliminary final, the winner to play Coogin Headland in the grand final next week. Of course, Coogin coached by one of Brian Johnston's former teammates, Graham O'Grady. Belcher up over the halfway line, that kick. Getting underneath it is Baker, and Baker runs it back to the halfway line. Just inside South Sydney's territory. Jason Moon from dummy half. Morrissey grabs him. He's got away from Morrissey, but he can't get away from Coyne and Steve Walters, though. Fennick at dummy half. Neville, Davidson. And Davidson can't get his pass away. Not that he really tried to that time. Just under 13 minutes remaining in the match, and Canberra leading 34 points to 12.
Serious news on Dean Lance. Apparently has no feeling in his back or legs.
Well, that's very serious news. Let's hope that the feeling comes back there pretty quickly. As the pass comes on the inside, that flick pass, and in the end it's been knocked on by David, or knocked back, says the referee, by David Boyle. Last tackle, so they've still got a chance here to put something on South Sydney, and it's Baker who hoists that ball high in the air. It bounces between Corkery and also Belcher, and Corkery's done well to get it back in the field of play, and Corkery's on a sprint. Coleman's coming across in cover. Corkery comes at Coleman. He pushes Coleman off. He's got Carey in support. Carey gets it away. Belcher racing for the line. Blake coming across. Belcher will get there. No, he won't. Great covering there by Blake. O'Sullivan's there at dummy half. As Belcher gets up to play the ball. Quickly O'Sullivan gets it away from Carey. Now it goes to Henjack. Henjack on his own, can't get the pass away. 10 metres out from South Sydney's line. And the referee calling timeout. Not sure what for. A spectator's got on the field. Get that clown off. Let's hope they not only get him off, that they take him to court and he gets banned from the ground. Those clowns, oh, they're idiots. No doubt the police will get him. It's hard enough for the players as it is without having that sort of interruption.
I bet he's a South Sydney supporter.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's a Canberra supporter, he won't be allowed back into Canberra or Queanbeyan tonight. It might have cost them a try. Morrissey charges the line, and Morrissey's held up 8 metres out. The ball's played. It comes away quickly. Rowan Benham's knocked it on. Lindsay Johnson, who's just come on for Wayne Chisholm, picks it up, and he's going to play it about 15 metres out from his own goalposts. Just under 11 minutes remaining in the match, and Canberra leading 34 points to 12. It comes away again to Ellison. The pirouette. Coleman's got it at the second grab. David Ball, the flick pass with Coleman. They've got to go forward. Davidson with the ball, keeping it alive.
You see Craig Coleman getting very involved, trying to rally his troops.
It's a good tackle from Kevin Walters there on Lindsay Johnston. 10 metres out from the South Sydney quarter line. Ellison. That's Andrews. Former Nambucca Heads boy. A flick pass, Ellison. Now Phil Blake from dummy half puts that kick in. Belcher in perfect position, gathers it in, back towards the halfway line. He's had a good game. That pass has found Kinner in support. And Kinner bounces out of one. He's a very solid boy, Chris Kinner. As Todd takes it up. It's been a good team performance by Canberra. They started well and they haven't let South Sydney get back into it. Brennan with the ball. Under 10 minutes remaining in the minor semi-final in the 87 Winfield Cup, and the Raiders have got it all parcelled up. The chip through by Kevin Walters. It's gone loose, and now Steve Walters has got it. Or has he? No. In the end, South Sydney have come up with it through Mark Ellison. Just when it looked as if it was a lovely 1-2, using some soccer parlance from the Walters brothers. Blindside. Davidson with the ball. There's the score. Canberra 34, South Sydney 12. Just 9 minutes left in the match. And now Andrews in some space. They've got a chance. The pass has been knocked down. Kinner's grabbed it up. Now Kinner going for the corner, and Kinner will score. Kinner's in. Try to Canberra. It's 38 points to 12. Can they make it 40? They still can't crack it for a smile. They might next week. The Canberra Raiders fans can, and the players can. It's 38-12, and look at the smile from Chris Kinner. He'd be pretty happy with that. Congratulated by Belcher. And here it is, just when it looked as if South Sydney were going to create something here. Good pass here from Coleman, and Andrews into space. And Andrews, he almost lost the ball. The pass comes away. It was good tackle there from Carey. The ball's loose. Kinner picks it up and easily outpaces Moon for the corner. Good try, and Canberra now have a chance to make it 40.
Bad luck for South. They've been trying everything in this second half to get back in the match, moving the ball wide, but the ball has gone loose. Kinner swooping on it, and he's got plenty of pace. Both these wingers have. They've had a field day today, as have all the Canberra backs.
You can't help but feel sorry for South Sydney. Even the bounce of the ball seems to be going against them today. But full marks to Canberra. They seem to have a man on the spot all the time to take advantage of the situations that arise.
Chris Kinner, his 9th try of the season. And there's going to be Gary Belcher to have the shot at conversion goal. Belcher moves in, the chance to convert the Kinner try. It's swinging way out to the left. And so the score remains with 7 minutes in the game. Canberra 38, South Sydney 12. Warren.
Brent Todd is off the field, and Glenn Lazarus is on for Canberra. Wayne Chisholm standing alongside me here with George Piggins. A look of disappointment on his face shows what losing is all about.
And there's the kick-off from South Sydney, and fairly certain that came off a South Sydney player's hand last of all. I'm certain that it was Ross's hand that came off last.
I feel a little sorry for Steve Maven, the winger who went off after, only 10 or 15 minutes following that Canberra blitz on his wing. He has had to watch all of this, knowing he simply can't do anything about it, and He did cop a couple of difficult kicks, not saying that he made the best of them, but they were difficult ones that he had to field. Of course, Canberra had all the running.
Of course, he is a fairly inexperienced winger too, and that must be remembered. He's played most of the season in the centres. Pass over the top as forward. And so the scrum will go down. Well, the other one went down just a few moments ago with Canberra to feed the ball into the scrum. Scrum won by Canberra, and that's Kinner who's wrapped up on the quarter line.
The other good news is that Dean Lance has some movement in his back and legs, and it appears there's no spinal damage.
Well, that's tremendous news to get from the dressing room. And as I said, it was an incredibly bad injury. If you'd ever suffer anything like that, it must be extremely frightening. Phil Blake going across field. He's got that pass away. And Mark Ross over on that far wing is going to be wrapped up just outside that quarter line. Blake, Cruikshank, and Cruikshank, he's got the pass away to Ross again. Ross goes straight down the centre. Back it comes, Cruikshank. They're hanging off tackles here, Canberra, but they've safely got the match parcelled up. David Boyle going for a good run. Boyle trying to finish 87 with a try. And he's tackled a few metres out from the quarter line. Down Canberra's end of the park, and the penalty goes South's way against Belcher. Quick play the ball. It comes away, and that's Andrews. Fennick, Coleman, the long pass that went to no one. Just under 5 minutes left in the match. The pass comes from Coleman. He gathers it in. And there it is, that long pass, trying to get it out wide to Jason Moon. In the end, the touch judge could have taken it.
Oh, come on, Mick. Stay back.
You heard the undoubted tones there of a South Sydney front rower saying, come on, Mick, referring to Mick Stone, the referee, perhaps suggesting that that ball wasn't correctly fed into the scrum. But Canberra have got it. It does show the competitiveness still of that South Sydney front row.
South Sydney guys haven't given up.
So they've got the ball here, Canberra, with 4 minutes left in the match. They're midway half and quarter line inside Canberra's territory as it comes away to Gilbert. Gilbert's got it away to Coyne. Coyne wrapped up. So with Canberra winning today, once again, no team is going to be successful in the premiership race from 4th or 5th position in any grade this year. The teams which finished 4th and 5th in under 23s, reserves and in first grade have all bowed out of contention.
This game was won and lost at half-time, but I wonder what Manly and East thought of the performance of the Raiders in the first half, because they were absolutely scintillating from the outset today when this game still had to be won and lost.
Chip over the top, and Canberra have got it. And Coleman's going to be spoken to here for a high tackle. Rowan Brennan is ducking under the tackle. And Mick Stone's having a few words to say. In fact, I think it might have been Glenn Lazarus who was taken in the tackle. Penalty goes Canberra's way. And so Belcher is going to have the shot at goal. Why not? Just let the clock tick down. There's 2 minutes 40 seconds left in the clock.
Ladies and gentlemen, just like
There's Brent Todd leaving the field. Looks as if there's ice pack there already on the ankle or the lower shin. Very important, the treatment of injuries.
Both the props have left the field this afternoon, so let's hope they both fit to take it next week.
Because they've got 8 days to recover, where whoever loses tomorrow has the mental anguish of losing, as well as, of course, only 7 days to recover.
That day is very important, particularly when you do have to play on the cricket ground, which is like cement.
So here's Belcher. Can he make it 40 for Canberra? The chance to make it 40 points to 12. He struck it pretty well. It's pretty good. It's there. 2 points to the Raiders. And Canberra leads South Sydney with only a minute and a half left in the match by 40 points to 12. The Canberra Viking showing us what it's all about. Why wouldn't he be excited? There's the clock ticking down on the scoreboard. Gary Belcher pointing to the scoreboard. The Raiders know it's theirs. And so does South Sydney know that it's the end of the premiership race for 1987.
I doubt that it would have made any difference to the game, but that try disallowed to South when Blake went over the line and the double movement was ruled. The score was about 22-2 at that point. I wonder if it would have had any effect on the game.
That's the thing about conjecture, of course, is that we'll never know. As Canberra run the ball back to the halfway, that's Rowan Brennan. The pass comes away. And there's the kick from Belcher, and that looks to be a beautiful kick off the boot, but it comes back on the inside, a little off break, and then Jason Moon gathers it in. Canberra have finished their scoring for the afternoon unless there's an intercept, as Baker runs it away from dummy half. His last game in South Sydney colours. He's off to Penrith next year. Jason Moon goes from dummy half. Less than 30 seconds in the match.
Canberra defence is still very enthusiastic. It's moving up.
Always seems to be more enthusiastic, Brian, when you're winning.
Especially by that margin.
Corkery affects another tackle out on that eastern touchline. And the little chip over the top. Steve Walters with a chance. Steve Walters, he's only ankle tip, a metre out from the line. They'll quick play the ball, and he's in for the try. The hooker has scored his second try in as many weeks. Let's have a look at it again. And look at the smiles of joy. That's what winning's all about. They're into the preliminary final. It's 44-12. The kick to come. That will be full time. And the hooker has done it again. Look at this. I said they'd finished their scoring. But look at this. The kick. Steve Walters. He's had another wow of a game. As he charges for the line, his ankle tap, gets up, has another go, and he's there. Referee said that's fair enough.
Canberra hungry for points. South's trying anything they can. The little kick from Cruikshank. Steve Walters coming up with it. He was tackled here, and a good one by Coleman, but shows the determination. They're so hungry for points. They're really ramming it home. Once more, the kick from Cruikshank. Tried hard. He has played very well all day, Cruikshank. Taken by Steve Walters. He shows plenty of pace for a hooker. Hits the deck, but up to his feet as quickly as possible and dives over in the corner. What a whitewash.
Well, he scored 4 tries this year. That's not bad for a hooker. His first season, and what a season it's been. Belcher from out near the touchline. There's the chance to convert the Steve Walters try, and he's done it on full time. A conversion goal from Gary Belcher, and it's all over. The Raiders have absolutely annihilated the Rabbitohs, 46 points to 12.